Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 62 of The Loud House, Deal Me Out. We begin this segment at the mall, where we see Lincoln and Clyde acquiring tickets and programs for the Ace Savvy convention that will be occurring tomorrow. Lincoln explains to the audience that this is, in his words, a sacred Lincoln McLeod tradition. After acquiring their tickets, Lincoln and Clyde see two of their classmates are at the mall right now, Lance and Trent. Lincoln and Clyde wonder if Lance and Trent are here to acquire tickets for the convention, but Trent clarifies that they're just waiting while his younger brother acquires a ticket for the convention. Shortly after that, an actor in an Ace Savvy costume arrives and inquires if anyone would be interested in taking pictures. Lance and Trent say that they're no longer interested in the Ace Savvy franchise, but they say this in a rather callous and dismissive manner. The actor in the Ace Savvy costume, for his part, takes the callous and dismissive remarks in stride, and then heads off to a different part of the mall. After that, Lance and Trent continue to make callous and dismissive remarks about the Ace Savvy franchise, but they don't notice that Lincoln and Clyde are still fans of the Ace Savvy franchise, so Lance and Trent inquire Lincoln and Clyde about what they're doing at the mall. In light of Lance and Trent's recent comments, Lincoln and Clyde decide to just say that they're just hanging out at the mall. And Lance and Trent do accept this answer, and then they bid Lincoln and Clyde farewell, saying that they'll see them in school on Monday. After Lance and Trent leave, Lincoln and Clyde begin to fear that they might be too old for the Ace Savvy franchise. Lincoln and Clyde notice that the other Ace Savvy fans in the mall right now, Lincoln and Clyde notice that the other Ace Savvy fans at the mall right now are younger than them. Lincoln and Clyde also recall a memory of how their costumes are now too small for them, and looking at the program, they notice that they're too tall for the bounce house of cards. So Lincoln and Clyde, these details escalate Lincoln and Clyde's fears that they might be too old for the Ace Savvy franchise. Clyde, though, thinks that they shouldn't quit the Ace Savvy franchise because the Ace Savvy franchise is what led to them crossing paths for the first time. We then get to see a flashback of when Lincoln and Clyde were 5 years old. This flashback takes place on Halloween, and we see Lincoln and Lynn trick-or-treating, but Lynn is running ahead of Lincoln, and Lincoln is trying to catch up to Lynn. Lincoln also points out that Rita told Lynn to stay near Lincoln, but Lynn ignores this comment and continues to just run ahead of Lincoln, so Lincoln is continuing to try and catch up to Lynn. And while trying to catch up to Lynn, Lincoln and Clyde accidentally bump into each other, and Clyde receives a nosebleed. Clyde receives a nosebleed, and Lincoln apologizes to Clyde and offers his cape to stop the nosebleed. Clyde appreciates the gesture and introduces himself. So after that, the flashback ends, and Clyde says that the story about how they met for the first time still resonates with him to this day, or he says something along those lines anyway. Lincoln acknowledges that the Ace Savvy franchise is what led to them crossing paths for the first time, but Lincoln mentions that they first met each other when they were 5 years old, and he thinks that maybe they should find interests that most would expect for 11-year-olds. So Lincoln and Clyde are both not thrilled about the idea of quitting the Ace Savvy franchise, but they begrudgingly agreed to do so. So the next few scenes show Lincoln and Clyde trying other hobbies or interests, but they don't go well for one reason or another. So the first of these scenes takes us to the skate park where Lincoln and Clyde try to skateboard naturally, but that doesn't go very well. The scene after that shows Lincoln and Clyde fishing at a lake, but a giant and antagonistic fish causes the fishing experience to end badly. This giant and antagonistic fish also eats the sandwiches that Clyde prepared for lunchtime. So after that, the scene after that is at the Loud House. Lincoln and Clyde go into the garage and they see Lana is making repairs for Vanzilla. And Lincoln inquires Lana about if she could teach them some things about car repairs. Lana thinks this is a joke at first and laughs, but when she sees Lincoln and Clyde are serious, she does agree to give them some advice about car repairs. And while Lana is showing Lincoln and Clyde the engine for Vanzilla, Lincoln's curiosity gets the better of him, and he touches a part of the engine that he wasn't supposed to touch. This causes some steam to this causes a burst of steam, which hits Lincoln and Clyde. So the scene after the garage scene shows us the kitchen of the Loud House, and Lincoln and Clyde have placed some frozen food items over their faces after the burst of steam occurred. So the scene after that shows Lincoln and Clyde on their bikes, and they're carrying boxes, they also have boxes with their A-Savvy items in them. Clyde wonders if it's really necessary for them to actually get rid of their A-Savvy items, and Lincoln thinks that they should because they won't have any use for them after they find new hobbies and interests. So Lincoln and Clyde eventually arrive at Flip's Food and Fuel, but they're confused about this because they were supposed to be heading to a pawn shop. Lincoln looks at the address that he wrote down, but the address he wrote down matches the address for Flip's Food and Fuel. So at first, Lincoln thinks maybe he wrote the wrong address down by accident, but Flip exits the store and clarifies that they are at the right location. Flip has a remote control, and he pushes the button on this remote control. Flip pushes a button on this remote control, and the Flip's Food and Fuel sign changes to say Pat's Pawn and Proms. And this remote control, also changes the name tag that Flip is wearing. The name tag now says Pat. So Lincoln and Clyde enter the store under a different name, and they show Flip the A-Savvy items that they're willing to sell to him. Flip says that he will give them $10 for it, but that's his final offer. So Lincoln and Clyde begrudgingly agree to Flip's offer. And Lincoln and Clyde also realize that they probably don't have any use for the tickets now that they don't plan to go to the A-Savvy convention. And Flip says that they actually came to the right place for selling tickets too. So Flip uses the remote control again, and he pushes a button to change the sign of the store to Tucker's Ticks and Tucks. And Flip is now wearing Flip's now wearing a new outfit to go along with this new version of the store. So the next scene takes us to the park, and we see Lincoln and Clyde have some skateboard equipment, and they sit on a bench. Lincoln and Clyde both insist that they are enjoying their new hobbies, but Clyde notices a kid playing with Clyde notices a kid playing with an A-Savvy and One-Eyed Jack action figure in a nearby sandbox. Clyde sees a kid in a sandbox, and this kid is playing with an Ace-Savvy action figure and a One-Eyed Jack action figure. So Clyde claims that he needs to apply some aftershave. Clyde tells Lincoln that he needs to go to the bathroom to apply some aftershave, and then Clyde goes off. In reality, Clyde wants to play with the kid in the sandbox with the Ace-Savvy and One-Eyed Jack action figures. So Lincoln doesn't know what Clyde is really doing, but Lincoln sees a boy and his mom passing by, and the boy is watching an episode of the Ace-Savvy TV show on a tablet. And Lincoln Yes, the episode that the boy is watching on the tablet is actually one of, if not Lincoln's favorite episode from the TV show. So Lincoln actually follows the boy so he can watch the episode too. He actually requests if the boy can turn up the brightness for the tablet. So at a later point in time, Lincoln and Clyde both return to the bench that they sat at not too long ago. And Clyde tries to claim that he took a lot. Yes, Clyde claims that he took longer because he realized he hadn't shaved, so he had to shave before he applied the aftershave. And Lincoln claims that that he was talking about some fishing advice with someone near the pond. So yes, Lincoln and Clyde don't want to admit to the other that they still miss the Ace Savvy franchise. So the scene after that takes us to a later point in time, and we're at the Royal Woods Mall now. And Lincoln and Clyde are in a car shop within the Royal Woods Mall. And yes, Lincoln and Clyde comment about how it's Saturday now, and this is around the time when the Ace Savvy convention would be occurring. But Lincoln and Clyde try to claim that they enjoy, that they don't miss it. Yes, Lincoln and Clyde try to claim that they don't feel bad that they're not at the Ace Savvy convention right now, and that they would rather just look over mufflers in this car shop. But yes, while Lincoln and Clyde are claiming this, Lincoln and Clyde both notice some Ace Savvy related events going on outside of the car shop. Like Lincoln notices some kids. Lincoln notices some kids just outside of the comic store within the mall. And they recently acquired some comics that relate to the Ace Savvy franchise in some way. So Lincoln claims that a bug flew into his throat, and he just needs to leave to get the bug out of his throat. Lincoln uses that to leave so that he can. So Lincoln heads to the comic book store. While Lincoln claims that that a bug flew into his throat, but in reality, Lincoln's just going to read some Ace Savvy comics at the comic book store. So while that's happening, Clyde eventually notices some kids talking to the actor in the Ace Savvy costume, and Clyde notices that Lincoln is not back yet, so Clyde decides to go see the actor in the Ace Savvy costume. And Clyde says that he has quite a bit of questions. We see that the questions are in a very long list. He has a very long list of questions for the actor in the Ace Savvy costume. So eventually, Lincoln and Clyde both return to the car shop, and Lincoln claims that it took a while for the bug to get out of his throat, while Clyde claims that another bug flew into his throat too, so he had to go to a different bathroom to get rid of that. So Clyde claims that he went to a different bathroom to get rid of a bug that flew into his throat, and they decide to so after that, Lincoln and Clyde acquire some mufflers for cars. And they notice some kids, while they're leaving, they notice some kids with Ace Savvy costumes, and they also have flyers and programs for the convention. And these kids are talking about how they're excited about the different events that are going to take place at the Ace Savvy convention. And while Lincoln and Clyde still try to convince themselves that they are no longer interested in the Ace Savvy convention, they eventually realize that they can't keep up this charade anymore. We see this in the form of flashbacks. So we see flashbacks that show a younger Lincoln and Clyde playing Ace Savvy related games with each other. Like they're trying to figure out, one of these flashbacks show Lincoln and Clyde trying to figure out who left some muddy footprints in the Loud house, and it turns out Lana was the one that left the muddy footprints in the house. Another flashback shows Clyde fixing Lincoln's Ace-Savvy action figure after Lynn ran over the action figure while riding while roller skating. Yes. Another flashback shows Lincoln's Ace-Savvy action figure breaking because Lynn ran over it with roller skates, and Clyde repairs the action figure for Lincoln. And then another flashback shows Lincoln and Clyde telling Lynn Sr. that they found out that Cliff the cat ate some bologna, and Lynn Sr. Congratulates them for solving that mystery. So after these flashbacks end, Lincoln and Clyde admit to each other that they can't keep up this charade. They decide that they don't think they can give up the Ace-Savvy franchise, even if they're worried that they might be too old for the Ace-Savvy franchise. Lincoln and Clyde both agree that the Ace-Savvy, being fans of the Ace-Savvy franchise makes them happy, and they should enjoy the franchise while they still enjoy it. Or yes, Lincoln and Clyde say that since they're still fans of the Ace-Savvy franchise and being fans of the franchise makes them happy, then they should have hobbies that make them happy. So Lincoln and Clyde decide that they're going to get their Ace-Savvy items back. So they head to, Lincoln and Clyde return to Flip's Food and Fuel, which is using one of the other names for the store right now. And Lincoln and Clyde are willing to give Flip $10 to get back their items. But Flip says that the price is different now because of certain fees. Flip lists off a series of different fees to justify wanting more money to get their items back. Flip says that they're going to have to pay more than $10 because of a list of fees that he claims. And in response to this, Lincoln and Clyde actually decide to make a trade with Flip instead. Yes, Lincoln and Clyde offer to trade a car muffler for their items and tickets back, and Flip does agree with this trade. So the next scene takes us to the Ace-Savvy convention, and we see Lincoln and Clyde are in Ace-Savvy themed costumes. Well, Lincoln's in his Ace-Savvy costume, Clyde is in his One-Eyed Jack costume, or they're probably different costumes since that earlier flashback showed the costumes being too small. So I guess these are new costumes, but they're bigger costumes. Yes, I guess they got bigger costumes, and they're at the Ace-Savvy convention right now. And Lincoln and Clyde are commenting about one of the events that they partook in. Or yes, there was a Q&A session that Lincoln and Clyde partook in, and Clyde actually got to inquire a question to one of the people at this panel. And Clyde was really excited about how they praised his question, and he doesn't mind that they accidentally got his name wrong. But then Lincoln and Clyde notice Becky, Chaz, and Joey are at the Ace-Savvy convention. Clyde immediately recognizes the trio of teenagers to be from Laurie's class. Lincoln is surprised that Clyde knows that they're from Laurie's class, and Clyde ends up revealing that he memorized Laurie's yearbook. That's how he recognizes Becky, Chaz, and Joey to be Laurie's classmates. Lincoln figures that Becky, Chaz, and Joey are here to supervise their younger siblings. And they notice that the trio of teenagers are walking towards them. So Lincoln and Clyde brace themselves for any possible teasing that they might receive from them. But Becky, Chaz, and Joey actually compliment their costumes. And they actually compliment their costumes, and they see that and they praise how Clyde. Clyde mentions that he made the utility belt for his costume himself, which impresses the teenagers, and Clyde also demonstrates that his utility belt can launch poker chips, and the trio of teenagers are impressed by this. They compliment the effort, And this leads to Lincoln and Clyde being surprised. They're surprised to hear that the trio of teenagers are fans of the Ace Savvy franchise. And Chaz, Joey, and Becky do confirm that, yes, they are fans of the Ace Savvy franchise. They show that they're wearing Ace Savvy t-shirts underneath the shirts that they're wearing. Yes, underneath their current shirts, they're also wearing Ace Savvy t-shirts, and they show the Ace Savvy t-shirts to Lincoln and Clyde. Chaz comments that they've been into the Ace Savvy franchise since they were 7 years old, and Lincoln wonders if they ever felt like they were too old for the Ace Savvy franchise. But Becky clarifies that they'll never be too old for the Ace Savvy franchise, and then Becky, Chaz, and Joey notice some Ace Savvy related items being sold within the convention, and they actually invite Lincoln and Clyde to join them. So Lincoln and Clyde do agree to join the trio of teenagers, and they proceed to head off to where this stand is that are selling items. Lincoln wonders if Clyde could lend him some money because he spent all of his on the car mufflers, and Clyde is more than happy to help Lincoln out. So Lincoln, Clyde, Becky, Chaz, and Joey all go to this stand that's selling Ace Savvy related items, and that is how we end this segment. So this segment touches up on Lincoln and Clyde being fans of the Ace Savvy franchise, and this particular segment actually, this segment does touch up on something that I'm sure many individuals, if not everyone, experience at some point in their lives. Many people have brought up how they've had those moments where they were worried if they were ever too old for a franchise that they were fans of. And I think this segment did address that detail very well. I think, yes, this segment did a good job at showing that you shouldn't let other people get you down if they act dismissive and callous if you're a fan of a franchise, and how franchises can have different fans of different age groups. Yes, I think this segment does a good job at highlighting how there are several franchises out there that have fans of different age groups, and this whole notion that someone is either too old or too young for certain interests or hobbies is one that can be very problematic, or that mentality can be very problematic. And so I did appreciate how they did show that, you can still enjoy something, or it shouldn't really matter how old you are if you enjoy something. And I think Lincoln and Clyde's point about how if being fans of the franchise makes them happy, that's what counts at the end of the day, I think that was a good lesson. So I did think that was, I did like this segment for that lesson, and I think it was a good lesson. And this segment also did reveal the detail, or this was an in-show revelation, this segment brought up a detail that was previously mentioned in supplementary material. That's how I should put it. Some supplementary material had revealed how Lincoln and Clyde first met each other, which was on Halloween when they were 5 years old, and how they accidentally ran into each other while Lincoln was trying to catch up with Lynn while they were trick-or-treating. So that was a detail that was mentioned in supplementary material, but they actually got to address that detail in this segment, and I thought that was pretty cool that they did acknowledge that supplementary material detail in the show itself, because some people might not always be aware of the supplementary material. So it's a good idea to bring those details up for anyone who might just watch the show but not really seek out any of the supplementary material. And besides that, this segment also did reveal this segment also did reveal that there were more Ace Savvy fans within the show, not just Lincoln and Clyde. We know Lincoln and Clyde are fans of the Ace Savvy franchise, and we knew Wilbur Huggins, the principal for Royal Woods Elementary School, was a fan of the Ace Savvy franchise too. That was revealed in the segment Pulp Fiction. The segment back out there had revealed that that there's someone in their age group who is a fan of A Savvy too, Renee, a friend of Zach's who appeared in Back Out There, like I said just a little while ago. But in this segment, we find out that 3 of Lori's classmates, Becky, Chaz, and Joey, are fans of the A Savvy franchise. They've been fans since they were 7 years old, and they still feel that they'll always be fans of the A Savvy franchise, no matter how old they get. So it was nice for Lincoln and Clyde to see that, yeah, there were people older than them that still enjoyed the A Savvy franchise. Now, true, Wilbur Huggins was shown to be a fan of the A Savvy franchise, but I suppose some fans figure that maybe Lincoln and Clyde didn't think to count Wilbur Huggins since he was an older adult, while Chaz, Becky, and Joey were closer to their age group. Yeah, Becky, Chaz, and Joey were older than them, but being teenagers, they were closer to their age group compared to Wilbur Huggins. So maybe that, the fact that they were closer in age, even if they were older, might have contributed to why Lincoln and Clyde felt more at ease about being fans of the A Savvy franchise compared to Wilbur Huggins. Or yes, maybe that's why Chaz, Joey, and Becky being fans of the franchise was what convinced Lincoln and Clyde that they shouldn't worry about being too old for the A Savvy franchise. And that's right, yes. So the revelation that Becky, Chaz, and Joey are fans of the A Savvy franchise had led to some fans thinking that it would be nice to see Lincoln and Clyde hanging out with these characters more. Yes, some fans do like the idea of different age groups being friends with each other. I know some fan works do like to go with the idea of, or yes, I've seen my share of fan works that do show Lincoln hanging out with Lori's classmates and being friends with them. And this segment did show a possibility for that, or an opening for that. Some fans did have fan works of Lincoln being friends with Becky and Chaz and some of the other classmates of Lori's before this segment. And after this segment, the revelation that at least Becky, Chaz, and Joey were fans of the A Savvy franchise is what led to fans. This led to more fan works about their interactions and how they're all fans of the A Savvy franchise. So there were fan works about Lincoln being friends with teenagers or kids from older age groups, or yes, older age group characters. But this segment definitely helped reaffirm those fan works, and some fan works definitely went with the idea of the fans of the A Savvy franchise. And yes, Clyde also too. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if some fan works also included Clyde hanging out with these teenagers or these older fans of the A Savvy franchise. But I think it's a nice detail. I do like how characters outside of the Loud family and outside of the McBride family and the joint Santiago and Casagrande family, I do like how those other characters have a little more details revealed about them. So I think that's pretty nice to learn more about Lori's classmates, or at least 3 of Lori's classmates. I know Becky and Chaz at least were pretty popular characters among fans from what I recall. Becky and Chaz were pretty popular when they first showed up. With some fans, when they first showed up in the show, some fans really liked Becky and Chaz, and I think this segment helped with their popularity, and Joey became a more popular character too because of this segment. From what I recall, Joey didn't seem to get much attention until this segment, at least compared to Becky and Chaz, based off of my reference pools anyway. So like I said, I do appreciate that we did get to see more of the characters that don't relate to the main families of the Loud House, but they're more like friends of members of the Loud family. So I thought that was a cool detail. Now, another detail that I think we should bring up is, that's right, Flip. We do learn a little bit more about Flip in this entry too. Yes, we find out that Flip changes the name of the store for different themes. Yes, he has a pawn shop and a shop where he sells tickets, or rather, it's all the same store, but he just changes the name, changes his name tag, and he changes like the inside of the store to match with the theme of the different versions of the store. So some fans did think that kind of helps to add a little bit more to Flip's character. It kind of does go to show how Flip likes to find different ways to make money. Flip has multiple ways to make money, and some people also think it fits Flip's character that it's still the same store. He just changes the name and some of the decorations and his name tag. So some fans did think that helps to add to Flip's character. And this whole situation about Flip changing the style of the store to match different themes, if you will, that does get brought up again in at least one other segment in season 3, at least from what I recall. I'll have to refresh my memory while I watch other entries of season 3 to make sure if that future entry I'm thinking of is the only other one, or if maybe it gets brought up in some other entries that I might have forgotten. But otherwise, I'd say that might be about it for this particular segment. So, like I said, I think the lesson about how being fans of a franchise, making someone happy is what really counts at the end of the day, and how it can be rather callous and dismissive to claim that people shouldn't enjoy certain things that they like. I thought the lesson about how people should be fans of franchises or have hobbies and interests that make them happy. I thought that was a good lesson, and I know some fans do appreciate this lesson in light of Sleuth or Consequences. Yeah, I guess we'll bring that up. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess I should go ahead and bring that up. Sleuth or Consequences was a segment that some people had mixed feelings about, and part of the reason why some fans weren't fond of Sleuth or Consequences was because of how most of the Loud sisters acted callous and dismissive towards Lincoln's interest in the Ace Savvy franchise. So this segment did help to so in light of how most of the Loud sisters acted in Sleuth or Consequences, some fans did appreciate how this segment assured Lincoln and Clyde that they shouldn't be ashamed or worried if they're fans of the franchise still. And some fans have admitted that they wonder how Lori would react if she found out that 3 of her friends or classmates were fans of the Ace Savvy franchise still. So that's led to some potential for some fan works. Some fans have admitted that they were considering some fan works relating to that detail about Lori finding out about our friends or classmates being fans of the franchise after she mocked Lincoln for his interest in Sleuth or Consequences. But I think that's about it now. So summarizing, I did like the lesson about how if being a fan of a franchise or having a certain hobby or interest makes you happy, that's what matters at the end of the day. I did like how they did address some backstory information about how Lincoln and Clyde first met each other, and I did like learning a little bit more about Becky, Chaz, and Joey, I also did like how we learned a bit more about Flip's character, too, with how he changes the store to match different types of stores. Flip uses his one store, but changes what type of store it is for certain circumstances to acquire different ways of making money. I think that definitely fits. I think that definitely fits Flip's character, and it was cool to learn a little bit more about Flip Chaz. Yes, with Chaz, Becky, Joey, and Flip, it was nice to learn more about characters who aren't members of the Loud family, the McBride family, or the joint Santiago and Casagrande family. So otherwise, I'd say that's about it for this segment. So as of this video, we've now discussed the A segment for episode 62 of The Loud House on this channel. Take care, and until next time.